Our next speaker, I'm going to use the cliche statement, needs no introduction. But here's the crazy part. Forget the introduction, we nearly didn't have him only because there was a visa problem. And then Charles Nutter, coming in from the US, actually had to spend almost 48 hours in Dubai waiting for the Indian visa to get approved, and then he managed to come in here, so we had to change the schedule a lot. Now, Charles, the stage is yours. Please, he's the creator of JRuby, and he'll be telling us everything and anything there is about JRuby. Please welcome him.
Namaste, Arshu Pravat. Good morning. Main Charles Nutter hun or main JRuby Guru hun. All right, and that's all the Hindi I have for you today. I am Charles Nutter. I am the JRuby Guru. I am also hideous online. You can find me anywhere. There's nobody else that has that name. I have been a JRuby core developer for 20 years now. Hard to believe that it's been that long. I am excited to be back at RubyConf India. It's been too long, and hopefully I can make this a habit and try to come back every year. I'd love to come and meet you all again next year. So let's get right into it. So, what is Ruby to you? To a lot of people, Ruby is just a command line or a command line. It's a runtime. CRuby is Ruby, right? To a lot of Ruby developers, Ruby is Rails. There are many Ruby developers who only know Ruby through Rails. And that's what Ruby means to them. They think of Ruby, they automatically think of Rails. But Ruby really is not just CRuby, not just MRI and Rails. Ruby is a programming language that we can use anywhere. We can use it for all sorts of problems, more than web applications, more than just building on the standard implementation. Do you want to do more Ruby? Do you want to be able to use more Ruby every day? Let me hear. Yes, of course, we want to be able to use Ruby everywhere. Do you want to build other things with Ruby, other than just the standard Rails web app, standard deploying on regular Ruby, right? Of course we do. Do you want Ruby to run faster, to scale to larger heights, and to do more for you? Of course we do, yes. You need JRuby. That's what we are going to talk about today. Ruby can be so much more than just CRuby, so much more than MRI and Rails. And I'm going to tell you how today. So, let's get into JRuby now. So JRuby, we heard a little bit about it yesterday, a little overview. JRuby is, of course, Ruby running on the Java virtual machine. So we try to focus on being a Ruby implementation, a regular Ruby, all the same commands work, all the same libraries work, Ruby implementation first, and then also be a JVM language, get the benefit of the Java platform, the benefit of the JVM and all of the things that it can do. We really want Ruby code to just work. If you run something on JRuby and it doesn't work, don't assume it's your fault. Talk to us. It's probably something that we need to fix. It's something we want to make work. We want JRuby to work like Ruby for you. So let us know right away. We have thousands of JRuby users worldwide, thousands of applications in production settings since 2007. So shortly after Rails even became a thing, we had JRuby users putting JRuby applications into production settings. We are the only alternative Ruby implementation that has had widespread production use. I'm going to showcase a few of these users for you today, and every one of the users that you will see could not have been using Ruby unless JRuby existed. We open up opportunities for Ruby to be in the wider world. Maybe your company will be a showcase in a talk next year, like MSCI was yesterday. We will see you in this list of people that's using JRuby. So the point that I want to bring across to you today is that JRuby equals opportunity. Ruby is hard to sell to the enterprise. They don't want another runtime installed. They don't want to run C code. They don't want to have C compilers. There's lots of libraries and new features that they need. And of course, they need big data. They need parallelism. JRuby is your ticket to bringing Ruby to the enterprise. All of these companies can run the JVM. They trust it. They know it's secure. They know it's powerful. You can run Ruby on these enterprises by using JRuby on the JVM. So let's talk about these problems one at a time. The enterprise doesn't want to install Ruby. We've run into this before. Trying to go into a banks, into finance, into governments, into healthcare. They don't want more options. They don't want more technology. Let's look at how we set up JRuby. So we've got our Java version. We went and installed it or used our package manager. We've got Java running on our system. We Ruby install JRuby. You can use Ruby install, RVM, all of the Ruby installers and switchers understand what JRuby is, and they will pull it down for you. Now we have JRuby installed. That's it. That's all that's required. No C compilers, no building anything. Run a JVM and install JRuby. Let's take a look at JRuby in action. We start up IRB. This is exactly the same IRB you're used to. Ruby version, right now, we are equivalent to Ruby 3.4.5. We've caught up on compatibility, and we run Ruby very well at that level. JRuby version, this is running 10.0.2. It's our most recent release. We've got 10.0.3 coming up soon. Let's call into some Java libraries. Here's the Java Lang runtime class. We get the instance of the runtime. Now, we can query it. How many available processors do we have? 10 processors. How much memory? A lot on my system. Just calling from Ruby code right into Java code to show that we are running Ruby, but it's running on the JVM. It has the entire capabilities of the Java platform available to it. So this problem, the enterprise doesn't want to install Ruby? No worries. JRuby will get you there. Build your application, deploy it on JRuby, throw it into the JVM, throw it into that web server, into that web application server, and you've got Ruby running in the enterprise. So our first user that I want to focus on, Quantum Inventions. Where's my Quantum Inventions folks here? We've got, yes, there we go. All right, we've got some folks here. So this is a software for intelligent transport systems focusing on a smart city mobility and fleet mobility as a service. Sounds very exciting. I'm excited because they are using JRuby the way it's meant to be. They're deploying Rails apps into a WebLogic Java application server using Oracle database. They are sending out JRuby applications to customers for user acceptance testing. No requirement of installing anything. All they send is a jar file and the user can run it. They are packaging up data processing as JRuby applications. You can take Ruby, put it into a Java application, and send it anywhere and anybody can run it. It's amazing. This is a perfect example of what JRuby is meant to do. Quantum Invention says, we use JRuby for running Ruby in environments without Ruby. And we hear this from users all the time. You can take a Ruby application, you can deploy it into your Java cloud, and no one even knows. It's just another Java application. So, Ruby compatibility, I mentioned JRuby 10 and Ruby 3.4 compatibility right now. Very high level of compatibility. We're continuing to fill in the blanks and add more features that are missing, but you won't run into most of those. We still support our older JRuby 9.4, Ruby 3.1 compatible version, probably for another 6 months or so. If people need it, then we can talk about maybe doing some contract to continue the development of JRuby 9.4. But JRuby 10 is where you should focus. That's the latest version. So let's talk about our next problem, C extensions. A big issue for the C Ruby community, a big issue for optimization and for security. Having to have a C compiler on your production system, that's definitely out for most of these enterprises. They do not want to see that. So, JRuby is a JVM language, so of course all of our extensions are just written in Java. Or if you like, you can write JRuby extensions in Scala or Kotlin or Clojure. It's all the same to the JVM. And the JVM can optimize your Ruby code right alongside those extensions. They inline together, they optimize together. It's all secure and fast and in one process, in one JVM. We also benefit from the same JVM garbage collection. A Ruby object in JRuby is just a Java object. A Ruby method compiles down to a Java method and all optimizes together. So we write the Java to make JRuby work so that you can write Ruby and run it on the JVM. So a little walkthrough of the JRuby architecture here. We've got our Ruby code coming in on the left. That parses down into a Ruby AST, like we saw in the talk yesterday. We compile that into our own internal instructions, our own intermediate representation. From there, we interpret our instructions for a little while, and then once that code gets hot and interesting and we realize it needs to optimize, then we pass it off to the JVM. We turn it into JVM bytecode. And the JVM does the same thing. The JVM interprets that bytecode for a while, and then it does its own optimization, and eventually turns it into fast native code. JRuby had the first native compiler for Ruby in the entire world in 2008. So this problem about C extensions and having to use C and having to have C compilers around, not a problem for us. JRuby is safe and fast and secure like any JVM language and integrates with the whole stack and all of the libraries that you call. So our next user focus here, Poshmark. We've got some folks down in Chennai working on Poshmark. Social commerce, social marketplace, high concurrency they get from using JRuby to running on the JVM. They use it because of the strength of the JVM, resilience, growth, scaling, and just migrating some of their libraries to the Java versions like MongoDB, reducing their latency by significant portions because the JVM optimizes so well and JRuby optimizes right along with it. Poshmark says JRuby has been integral to Poshmark's stack for over a decade and remains a cornerstone of scalability and innovation. These are the advantages that JRuby companies get out of using our platform. So a problem, so we got a new problem here. Let's talk about the next one. Sometimes Ruby's ecosystem is missing a library. We don't have the functionality we need. They use JRuby because the available libraries for document processing, image processing, PDF generation, Office documents, all of that are just so much easier to use on the JVM. All they have to do is import those libraries just like JFreeChart. Import the libraries, call it, generate the data, and you're ready to go. Another user that we've been working with lately, EasyBI, they do business integration, plugins that integrate into the Jira Atlassian stack. They use JRuby for the same reason. They can integrate with all sorts of Java libraries, Mondrian, OLAP, Apache Poi, which is a library for doing Office documents, Batik for doing vector graphics. And then they deploy this as a standard jar file into Jira installations all over the world. Thousands of users that run EasyBI are using JRuby inside their Java stack, inside their Atlassian tools. They get real multi-threading, they can deploy on Windows without any problems. Perfect example of JRuby's use case. All right, so the next problem, the next big one here. Enterprises need big data and high concurrency. These are two things that Ruby has struggled with for a long time. When data gets too big, the Ruby GC just can't keep up. And concurrency, well, we've got some stuff with reactors, but we're still not anywhere near what the JVM can do. So let's talk about this. Of course, JRuby's leading the way here. JRuby has been meeting these challenges of Ruby for years, for decades now. We had a JIT compiler in 2008, first native JIT for Ruby in the world. We integrate perfectly into the JVM's optimized garbage collection, the best garbage collectors in the world. Garbage collection will never be your problem on JRuby. Concurrency and parallelism, easy. JRuby threads run fully parallel. You throw 10 threads at a problem on a 10-core machine, you get 10x improvement, just like that. We move fast in the JRuby world, and we integrate with the JVM and solve Ruby's problems the best way we possibly can. So GC. Okay, many different options of GCs, many different ways you can tune it. Small and fast heaps, large heaps for huge amounts of data. Not just gigabytes, I'm talking terabytes of data in a single application. You can work with that in JRuby and never miss a beat. Never even have pauses, pauseless garbage collectors. We have high throughput, we have large in-memory data sets. All of these options coming along for free in open source, in OpenJDK, and additional ones out there that you can pull into your system. GC is not going to be your problem. Here's an example of one of the tools for the JVM. It's one of my favorites called Visual VM. On the left side, we have some basic sort of measurements of the VM, how much CPU is being used, what the overall memory size is. On the right is a plugin called Visual GC. This is actually showing a live view of the JVM's garbage collector running a piece of Ruby code. In this case, I think it was a red-black tree benchmark. We can see the different generations fill up, garbage collects, cleans it up again, sometimes data goes up. If we don't see this nice sawtooth over time, if it continues to grow, we found a memory leak. But we can use tools like this on JRuby with standard Ruby applications, something that just doesn't exist in the Ruby world. Now, performance. JVM has world-class JIT compilers. And of course, JRuby compiling Ruby into JVM bytecode, we get the same benefits. We can compile right alongside all the Java code and optimize and inline all together. Let's take a look at a very simple benchmark. How fast can we create objects? Ruby is a very object-heavy language, creating tons of objects, tons of garbage all the time. How well does JRuby handle this? Well, let's take a look at Ruby 3.4, running the JIT compiler that they have. Pretty good, 10.3 million objects per second in this benchmark. Now, there's an optimization coming up in Ruby 3.5 called the opt-new benchmark. Basically, they've taught the VM about object allocations, and they're getting roughly a 30% improvement on that. Definitely a good improvement for them. I'm glad to see that they're integrating this into their VM and into their JIT. So they're continuing to move forward. Now, what about JRuby? How does JRuby do on this benchmark? Well, this is where it gets a little funny. The JVM is so good at optimizing object allocations and has so little overhead for its garbage collection that we just blow the JRuby numbers completely out of the water. And if I were to throw this at some more advanced Java JITs, they'll even see the objects don't need to be allocated, and this will go up even higher. The JVM is so good at optimizing that it's almost impossible to beat. And now concurrency, of course. Ractors are designed to bring concurrency to Ruby, but you have to write Ractor-friendly code. You have to treat it like a separate instance, like you're throwing a request over the line and getting a result back. It makes it difficult. And there's a lot of overhead crossing that boundary. Threads in JRuby are already 100% parallel. If you use immutable objects, like you would have to do with Ractors anyway, you can have low overhead with real threads and shared memory and get real performance out of all the cores on your system. Here's a quick little benchmark. We're just going to parse JSON as fast as we can, pull in the data, parse that data, and send it off to the next processor. This is a version with threads. There's another version that uses Ractors, basically the same code. So, JRuby with threads, of course, we basically don't get any improvement. There's a tiny increase because now we're parallelizing some of that I/O, but then the GVL comes in, the global lock comes in, and keeps us from really getting the benefit of our cores. Ractors, again, not a whole lot of improvement. It's still bottlenecked on the same garbage collector. It's still bottlenecked on passing that data in and out of all of those Ractors. But then JRuby, of course, on a 4-core machine, we get 4 times improvement by running this with threads. That's the benefit of real threads and real shared memory. If you want real parallelism with low overhead, you need to be able to do this. Let's look at a Rails application. A very simple app. We're just going to do the scaffolded blog post app and try to hit it with as many requests as possible. JRuby versus JRuby, a little bit better on straight line performance, 1,700 requests per second versus 1,500. But more importantly, on the right side here is how much memory is required for concurrent users. The more concurrent users you have in JRuby, the more instances you need, the more processes. JRuby, one process can handle thousands of users at the same time. And that's saving money for you. That's saving your cloud costs. User focus on Logstash. How many people are Logstash users here? Have ever worked with the Elastic Stack? You are a JRuby user. That is a JRuby-based product. Hundreds of thousands of events using JRuby's multi-threading, using Java libraries and servers, deploying on all sorts of systems. Anywhere a JVM can run, Logstash can run because of JRuby. Logstash says JRuby was chosen to overcome MRI Ruby's lack of multi-threading and leverage the vast and mature ecosystem of Java. That's what you get from running on JRuby. Substitute Alert is another friend of ours. They've been using JRuby for high concurrency, high overhead systems for a long time, Java integration with other libraries, and of course, using those same performance tools like the ones I showed, like Visual VM. Substitute Alert says, the JRuby team has been amazingly responsive and helpful. And that's what we want to be for you. We want to help you become a JRuby user and make a better application. So let's wrap this up with JRuby's future here. So JRuby 10.x, many more optimizations are coming. Now that we've caught up on compatibility, we're doing a lot of cool optimizations, like that object.new work, like other stuff that's coming along the line. We're going to be integrating more JVM features. The JVM is not sitting still either. They're improving optimizations. They're improving garbage collection. They're improving startup time. If you upgrade JRuby and upgrade the JVM, your code just gets faster. Easy. So the last problem to cover before we close up here. I don't know how to use JRuby. Well, the answer is to partner with me and partner with my company, Hedius Enterprises. Hedius Enterprises is continuing JRuby development by selling support contracts, doing developer relations, working with companies like yours to bring JRuby to your application. So tell your team about what you saw here today with JRuby. Help us make JRuby better. And then take the next step and try JRuby yourself. Are you building an app? Try writing on JRuby. Bundle install, see if it all installs okay. Run Puma, see if it starts up. Let us know what you need. Let us know what doesn't work. Are you a library author? Put JRuby into your continuous integration. Add JRuby to your list of supported runtimes. And come and find me here. Let's talk. I've got stickers for anybody that will promise to try JRuby. Lots of them. They're great little stickers. That's our mascot. JRuby, the Ruby J. All right. So thank you very much. Please get in touch. Here's my information. Just look for Hedius anywhere online, and you'll find me very quickly. I'm very happy to be here, and I'll be here the rest of the day if you have any questions. Thank you.